Hello everyone, I'm Michaela Kathleen. Happy 4th of July. For today's video, I'm doing the 4th of July book tag. So jumping right in, the first prompt is to show a red, white, and a blue book that you have read. So starting with the red, I have Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson, which is kind of a mystery thriller situation in which a teen girl has gone missing and the only one who seems to care is her best friend. So a really good mystery with really good twists and turns. The white book that I have is Love Blind by C. Desir and Jolene Perry. And this is a dual perspective book, so one of our main characters, Haley, is going blind and she has a list of things she wants to do before that happens. And our other main character, Kyle, has a lot of anxiety and he's trying to kind of push himself outside of his normal bounds in this book. And then the blue book I have is Towers Falling by Jewel Parker Rhodes. And this is a book about 9/11, another very important day in America's history. And it is about an elementary school class that is learning about 9/11 for the first time. Prompt number 2 is pick a book with a ragtag group of revolutionaries. And for this one, I'm going with Uglies by Scott Westerfeld. This is a YA dystopian in which everyone at the age of 16 receives a surgery to make them look supermodel gorgeous. And so it kind of starts out as a seemingly utopia in which everyone gets along because there's nothing to fight about or be jealous about since they all are beautiful and have all of their needs met. But of course, there's shady things going on in the government, and our main character Tally and her friends end up trying to overthrow said government. But it's just a really fun group of kids in this book. They're all kind of adventure junkies. They're all flying around on hoverboards all the time. Very action-packed and fun. The next prompt is pick a book that takes place in one of the original 13 colonies. So for this one, I went with Afterworlds, again by Scott Westerfeld. And a lot of this book takes place in New York City, and it definitely has that New York feel to it. I've only been there once for a visit of slightly over a week, but it felt very New York to me, which really gives the book a fun vibe. The part that takes place in New York is following our main character who is having her first book published, and she moves to New York for that process. But then the other half of the book is the book that she is getting published, which is a fantasy book and takes place not in New York. But the parts in New York are super fun and real and exciting, and then the fantasy parts are also a lot of fun. Prompt number 4 is pick a book that takes place in England, which I don't actually have a lot of books that take place in England, surprisingly, so I'm gonna go with an obvious one here, and I'm gonna go with the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling, which really just takes you all over England and Scotland. Prompt number 5 is Fireworks. Pick a book that ends with a bang. And for this one, I'm going with The Last Book in the Universe by Rodman Philbrick, which is one of my all-time favorite books, but not super well known. But it's pretty short, and so it ends with some really dramatic twists and turns and reveals, a slight spoiler alert, a dramatic death, I won't say who, and then there's not a ton of time after that for just the little wrap-up. There is a little wrap-up after the big dramatic ending, but it's pretty short, and so that dramatic ending is still very much with you at the end of the book. And then prompt number 6, the final prompt, is pick 3 books from your TBR that are red, white, and blue. So for my red book, I'm going with Dry by Neil and Jared Shusterman, which I've only read one book by Neil Shusterman, but it is a childhood favorite, and that is Downsiders, which I feel is not his most well-known book, partly because it's older, but it is also very good. Also takes place in New York. And so yes, this is the only Neil Shusterman I've read so far, but the next book I'm reading on my TBR is Scythe, which I'm very excited for. And then a little further down on my TBR is Dry, which I'm not as excited as I am for Scythe, just because the concept for Scythe is so cool. But I'm hoping that I really enjoy Scythe, and then Dry, and then Neal Shusterman is just gonna be like one of my favorite authors at that point. But this one takes place in California, and the concept is pretty basic. All of the water has run out, and so it's following a family that is trying to survive that situation. For my white book, I'm going with Sadie by Courtney Summers, which this is another kind of mystery thriller, but is told in the form of a podcast, which I think should be interesting. People say that this one's really good on audiobook because it is told in the form of a podcast, but my physical TBR is so long that I cannot bring audiobooks into the mix, so I will just be reading it on paper. But I'm excited by the interesting format that it will be told in. Mystery thrillers aren't always my cup of tea, but this one sounds like an interesting concept, and I'm a sucker for an interesting concept. And then for my blue book on my TBR, I'm going with Breathless by Jennifer Niven, which is one that is really far down on my TBR, but I'm really excited for it because I really loved both of Jennifer Niven's other YA books, Holding Up the Universe and All the Bright Places. Holding Up the Universe is one of my favorite YA books, and I also really enjoyed All the Bright Places, so this one is pretty exciting. Jennifer Niven is becoming one of my favorite authors. And like, quite honestly, don't even know what this book is about. Bought it with just Jennifer Niven on the cover. That's all I needed to know. But yeah, that's it for the 4th of July book tag. I hope you enjoyed watching. Let me know down below some of your summer reading plans. And once again, happy 4th of July. Now on to the quote for today's video, which today I have one from Martin Luther King Jr. And it goes, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." Thanks for watching. Remember, words matter.